Distributors and manufacturers have strength. How can each of them leverage their strength to optimize partnership?
The process really of trying to figure out how do we leverage our strengths is looking at exactly what is it that the other is needing. In other words, in most cases, companies start from partnerships from an internal and sort of perspective, and that is, this is what I need, and I'm going to figure out how to get that from someone else. Instead of saying real partnerships as you're working together, start from the other perspective and saying, what is it that you need and how can we help fulfill those needs? Because otherwise what happens is the discussions always tend to revert back to price. And what I always try to do is I try to get our clients to not even discuss pricing in any of the negotiations. It's all about how do we collectively add value for our two organizations. So in some cases, you could take a look at this and you can say, as a manufacturer, you really have a strong understanding of what are the strengths of the market and what's the size of the market and what are the needs. By helping educate the distributors to some of the information that you have on a more macro level, it can help them be much more effective. You have the ability to see pricing that it transcends an entire sort of country, whereas a distributor may be focused in a specific region. And that's information that they could really use to help benefit them as they're out selling and supporting your products. On the same vein, as a distributor, you have a unique understanding of what's happening in your local or regional market that in many cases the manufacturers just don't have that information. So you can provide that back to them. You can provide, in most cases, a low-cost access to customers. You can get to customers much more efficiently than they ever could. And so by leveraging that, as well as your ability to provide logistics expertise, ability to provide kitting and combining of products to specifically meet the needs of the customers. And in many cases, the distributors are better suited to efficiently target and support sort of the SMB, the smaller and mid-sized businesses. And so it's understanding what your strengths are that are really going to help as you come together and you start thinking about partnerships.
You've spoken about working channel partners to improve profitability throughout the supply chain. Could you discuss what steps distributors and manufacturers can take to bring their partnership to this level?
As a first step, you need to be very specific in who you want to partner with. Start small. Pick a single company that you work together with, and I would start with one where you're starting with a mutual trust between your two organizations, because you're going to be sharing a lot of information that if you don't have that trust with the partner probably won't take place. Assemble a cross-functional team resources. Don't just bring sales or just marketing, but include finance and other aspects of the organization as well, because you're going to be working together to come up with what we refer to as a process map. And really, this is a comprehensive map that lays out from how the products are basically created, built, distributed, and sold to the end customer. And what you're looking for in this process is really to understand sort of where are the overlap in that process. What things are being done by both companies that could be better accomplished by a single company. And by doing that, you're really going to get what you also need to do is you need to get the necessary information to understand exactly where are you making money and where are you losing money. So where's the cost in all of these processes? And what you're going to look for is ways to cut out steps in the process. Are all of the tasks needed to be done multiple times? Or if you had some information up front, could it only be done once? Is it something that one company does and then the second company does the same thing all over again? And what we need to do is figure out how do we eliminate and drive higher levels of efficiencies in that process. It's not easy. It takes time to really develop the skills and the competencies to be able to do this and to do it well. But I can tell you that the payoffs are well worth the effort. And what we've seen is, as a distributor, having those skills and the competencies are a nice to have. It's very helpful when your gross margins are above that 20% range. But I'll tell you, when the margins in your market drop below the 15% range, you will be forced to go through these activities. And companies that have developed the skills and have the history of doing that tend to have a significant leg up in the market. And ultimately, and with many distribution segments, as the margins drop below and sort of into those single-digit numbers, it's a mandatory process because there is no more fat left in the system. All of the money and all of the margins have been wrung out, so we need to figure out how to be extremely efficient as we're faced with the old adage of doing more with less. And that's really what the whole idea of process mapping is figuring out how we can get all of the processes done, how we can look at the market differently, and how it can be done much more efficiently.
Finally, could you provide some action steps for distributors and manufacturers to consider as they move forward on perhaps discussing some of the things that we've talked about today?
I would say, as a sort of a starting point from an action step is you really need to be selective and pick one partner to work with. Some organizations find to develop the process mapping skills, they do it internally first within your own organization before they go externally and working with other companies. But pick one company to partner with and then develop a very clear list of performance expectations. And what do we want to accomplish? What are our financial and quantitative goals that we want to come up with? We need to then assemble a task force to test these assumptions and then establish your baseline. So once again, it's creating the metrics around exactly what are we going to measure, where are we today, and then it's really sitting down and working through a very detailed task step map of what are all of the processes, laying them out, how long do they take, who does what, and how can, are they really necessary? Are there other ways to really approach this? I find that you're much better off sort of to start small and build off these successes. And what you're able to do is essentially bring along the rest of the organization, develop the competencies, and then communicate those successes throughout the organization so people get a chance to learn how you're doing this and what can be done as you continue to go forward. And then finally, as you move into this, be bold in creating new initiatives. Try to look at the market differently. If you look at organizations that have really surpassed the competition, they don't do it by simply doing what has always been done in the past. They do it by being bold and looking out and doing things differently and trying new approaches.
Your first action item was to just pick one company to partner. So when it relates to trying to build out partnerships with your suppliers, it sounds like you recommend kind of starting small and being selective, choosing just one to start with, and maybe then building on that in the future. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Don't try to do this with all of your suppliers at the same time.
You're right. It's too hard. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a significant commitment of your resources to do this well. And you're going to learn a lot. So yes, I definitely recommend that you start small. Pick one partner, one that you trust, that you have a good, solid relationship now with, and build on that. Figure out how it works best for your organization, then expand from there.
Thank you for joining us and providing some food for thought on the topic of channel partnerships, always a challenge to do successfully. So thank you very much for spending the time today.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed the opportunity to share this with your members.